All right, this is working. It's been a little while since we've done a Facebook live stream. Hello, everybody, especially to our friends in the rest of Texas. We hope that you're doing okay. We know that most of you have electricity again, but many of you, millions of us in Texas, are without water right now. We're okay here in El Paso, but I know from just having spoken to some friends in San Antonio and Houston and other parts of the state that you're really struggling right now, either with no water or low water pressure, or you're living under a boil water notice, which means you can't drink what's coming out of the tap. And as somebody in Houston shared with me, that they've been instructed to keep their mouth closed when they're taking a shower just to be super safe. But wherever you are in Texas, we hope that you're okay. If you need help, we want to make sure that we're here to provide some resources. And for those who want to help, let's say that you're in Texas and you're doing okay, or you live in another part of the country or the world, and you want to support those in Texas who need help right now, we want to provide some resources to do that as well. One number that everyone in Texas should keep in mind is 211. 211 is a general assistance phone number. If it's not an emergency, but you need some help, getting water, getting transportation, getting to a warming center. So let's say you're one of those who still doesn't have electricity, or your heater's not working in your home. You can call 211 and they will direct you to your closest warming center. Many of those warming centers across the state of Texas also have warm meals. They also have water. They also have people, which for those who've been living in isolation without power and without help, that can be a gift in itself. So 211 is an important number. For those who are on Twitter, I want you to know that we've been posting threads by city. So Austin, Houston, by region, Rio Grande Valley, Panhandle, etc., with resources for those who need help and places to donate for those who want to give help. And then those threads are open for anyone and everyone to contribute. You may know better than I do about the local food pantry, or a pet-friendly shelter in your neighborhood, or one of your neighbors who needs help. And many of you have been posting on those threads on Twitter about those neighbors and asking us to do wellness checks, and we've been doing our best to do that. You can also, if you want to help, you can sign up at Powered by People to become a volunteer. Our Powered by People volunteers over the course of this week have made more than 900,000 wellness check phone calls across the state of Texas, calling really almost everywhere. I called Pittsburgh, I called Palestine, I called Athens, I called Atlanta, all in the state of Texas, as well as San Antonio and Houston and Dallas and Granbury and other cities across the 254 counties. But so did thousands of other volunteers. And what we found over the course of those phone calls is that while we could connect people with water, with transportation, with help, just the sound of another human voice trying to help you out when you wondered whether anyone knew if you were even alive, that's really powerful. And so if you want to sign up to be a volunteer and help us to make those wellness check-in phone calls, we'd love to have your help. You can also make a donation through Powered by People. No part of that donation will stay with us. 100% of what we can send out goes to shelters, goes to food banks, and goes to those who are on the ground in those affected communities to help those who are in need right now. So there are a number of ways to help out right now. Those are just a few, and that's just with us. There are a number of other organizations as well. We want to thank everyone who's pitching in. I know Julian Castro has been organizing around Texas food banks. I know that Congresswoman Veronica Escobar has been doing that. I know that a congresswoman who doesn't even live in Texas, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, has been extraordinarily generous with her social media platforms and has raised more than $2 million that she's spending directly in Texas to help those who've been affected and displaced and harmed by this storm, and frankly by the lack of governance that we have at a statewide level at a time that we need it the most. So in whatever way that you can help, please know that it's needed and that we will be grateful to all those who are helping. Thank you. and everyone who needs help. We want to make sure that we're here to assist in any way that we can. One of those ways is if you live in a community that has not gotten help. Let's say you're in part of rural Texas, or you're one of the suburbs of the big cities, and maybe the city center is getting all the resources, or you have to drive in to downtown to pick up water, and you don't have a ride, you don't have transportation. We'd love for you to tell us about that. Here, I've asked Cynthia and Kate, our volunteer managers, and our volunteers to be monitoring this Facebook Live, all the comments, and where we see that we can be helpful to somebody, we're going to do our best to do that. Where there's a question that I can help answer, or if I can't answer that we can take back and get an answer for you, I'll do my best on that as well. And I know that it looks like Cynthia has pinned on my screen, it's right there, she's pinned a link to allow you to make a financial donation, again, that we get out to shelters, to food banks, and to those on the ground who are helping people in need across the state of Texas. So I wanted to come on to thank everyone who's been helping those in Texas, to share with everyone in Texas that we are with you through the end of this. And though those of us here in El Paso, Texas, we got snow, we got ice, we got cold temperatures, we didn't have the shut off in power, we didn't have the reduction in water pressure, we didn't have people frozen out of their homes. And so those of us in El Paso want to help the rest of the state, and I know the rest of the country wants to help the state of Texas. And we just want to make sure that we're helpful in getting that done. So again, hope everyone is okay. I know that Cynthia and Kate have been texting. I want to see if there's any messages that they wanted to get out to us. So these are some folks who have donated. Give some shout outs. Susan Miller donated. Thank you. Diana, I think this is Diana from El Paso. Diana, thank you for making a contribution. Again, folks, Powered by People will keep 0% of your donation for administrative or overhead costs. We'll send everything through to the shelters, the food banks, and then really importantly, I know Cynthia's been reaching out to local organizations across the state, to those who are helping do door-to-door wellness checks, to help with broken plumbing, to help those who don't have water and need it right now. One of our phone bank volunteers the other night called a gentleman in Killeen, Texas, which for those of you who aren't familiar with the state, that's the home of Fort Hood. And this guy had not eaten anything in 2 days, was isolated in his home without power. Kate, after getting this download from our volunteer, called the warming center in Killeen, Texas, and arranged for a ride for this gentleman to be able to go to the warming center to get some heat, but also to get a warm meal and get some calories and nutrition in his system, and also some love and some kindness from those in his community. Amy and I, we were sitting right on this couch last night making phone calls with all of you who joined us in that phone bank. And I think one of our last phone calls, Amy, was to a guy who at first, I introduced myself and told him why I was calling, and he was suspicious and he was skeptical. What do you want? Why are you calling me? What's going on here? What do you want from me? And when I explained, I don't want anything from you, I want to help you, and I'm calling to see if you have electricity, I'm calling to see if you have water. He really opened up, and he told us that he'd suffered a stroke right after Thanksgiving. He now walks with the assistance of a walker to get around, and admitted to Amy and to me that he's been kind of rationing the limited food that he has in his home and the limited bottled water that he has, because he doesn't know when he's going to be able to get out. He doesn't have a car, he doesn't have transportation. And so Powered by People volunteers today followed up, made an outbound phone call to him to make sure that we connected him with that help. We asked him last night, by the way, is this an emergency? Do you need us to connect you with someone right now? And he said, no, I'm good for the next 24 hours, but if someone could call and check in with me tomorrow, I would appreciate it. We did. Cynthia talked to a woman named Beth in Texas City who told Cynthia about her medically complex daughter who needs 24-hour oxygen, was unable to do that anymore because she didn't have power in her home, took her daughter to the hospital. The hospital unfortunately turned them away. This is according to Beth, because they were out of capacity. They just couldn't help. And she ended up getting oxygen for her daughter in the back of an ambulance. But then asked Cynthia, so we're okay for tonight, but what are we going to do tomorrow? That's what too many Texas families are going through right now. And that's why we are so grateful for everyone who's helping, everyone who's donating, everybody who got on the phone banks with us and who will get on more phone banks with us in the future if you sign up at poweredbypeople.org, to make sure that we provide the help to those who need it right now. All right, I'm going to look for a report from Amy.
Okay, so
you want to come over here so you're not the disembodied voice?
Yeah. In the distance. Oh, okay. Hello, everybody. So a few comments that you're not speaking loudly enough, which probably means I'm definitely not speaking.
All right, I'm going to speak louder. Sorry about that, folks. We're a little rusty. It's been a while since we've live streamed.
Okay, and then gotten a few names of people that have donated. So
let's give them a shout out.
Yep,
let's thank them.
Storm Boyd.
Go Storm!
Awesome.
People of Ohio, you've got a real winner there.
Juanita Mendoza.
Thank you, Juanita.
Aaron Kelsey.
Thank you, Aaron.
Phaedra is donating $750 from her t-shirt sales.
No way! Thank you so much. That's awesome. That's great.
And then Renee Stanley said that she and her sister in Houston got a call to make sure that they were doing okay and that it really meant a lot.
Renee, I know that you had some problems with your back and you were not feeling 100% even before this hit. So Renee, we hope you're feeling better, and we thank you for everything that you do for everyone. Renee's a great Powered by People volunteer. She's a donor. She's one of the helpers, as they say. So we want to thank her.
Georgia from Oregon just donated. Crystal says hello. Hi, Crystal.
Yo, Crystal.
Good to see you. And then I love this comment that Judge Andy Brown has been awesome and doing great things in Austin.
Can I talk about Judge Andy Brown for a second? On Twitter, and again, thanks to everyone who is contributing to these Twitter threads that we've been posting city by city. Everyone who's telling us what they need on those Twitter threads, and for that matter here on Facebook. One of you, Julie, said, and I think I have this right, you said, I need help. There's a young man in Austin whose transplant medication or some important medication is in a FedEx shipment at the airport, and they can't get it out of the Austin airport. Can you help? And I, replied on Twitter. I said, I'm going to DM you right now. She shared her phone number. I connected her with Andy Brown, the county judge of Travis County, which is where Austin is. And before too long, later in the day, I think the president of Federal Express, FedEx, got in touch with Julie, and they got that medication to the person in need. So, a lot of us are justifiably concerned about some of the negative impacts and influences of social media and some of the real devious and pernicious ways these platforms are used. This week has shown me the power positively of these platforms and of people helping one another out. And that's a great example. So Julie, thank you for connecting us with the need. And everyone, keep this coming. I did a tweet earlier today, and I said, we've done a tweet thread for Austin, for San Antonio, for Houston, for Dallas, for Fort Worth, for the Rio Grande Valley, for the Panhandle. What other cities would you like me to cover? We got hundreds of responses. Abilene, folks need something there. San Angelo, folks want to know where they can help out there. I remember someone brought up Henderson in Athens, Texas. We got that one covered. Know that we're working on all these. We read every single comment in the Twitter thread. We read every single comment that you're posting here on Facebook Live. And every dollar you contribute, we will make the most of it. Every phone bank that you sign up for will put you to work for as long as you can. And some people yesterday, Amy, were on the phone bank from 1 p.m. till 8 p.m.
Wow.
Or 9 p.m. I think we were on until 9 p.m. Anyhow, till the end of the day. I can't remember.
Do you remember Henry came in and he was like, you all have been doing this for 8 hours? And I said, well, I haven't been doing it, but I guess there were people that were. There
absolutely were. And you all are all-time heroes. One other thing I got to tell you, for those who don't know and haven't heard me say this, there were people on our phone bank night before last who were making calls in Texas from their cars. They didn't have power in their homes. and the only place they could get warm was in their car, and the only place they could get juice for their phone was in their car, and they were where they should have just been taking care of themselves and their families. They were trying to take care of others, and I think that speaks to the spirit of the work that Powered by People volunteers do, and just to the people of Texas, regardless of whether you volunteer with us or somebody else. That's an encouraging, inspirational, hopeful thing in the midst of some really, really tough times. This is the worst storm, bar none, in the history of the state of Texas, and we are not out of the woods yet, folks. So again, please keep the help coming. We could really use it.
I love this. Shelly says that a volunteer called her 96-year-old father last night.
Wow. Thanks to the volunteer who did that. If you volunteered with us on any of these phone banks this week, you realize how lucky we are to do this, to call someone and not ask for a thing, but to check in on them and make sure that they're okay, to get some lessons in manners from a woman in East Texas who interrupted me in the middle of my conversation with her and said, "Can I just give you some advice, Beto?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Next time you call somebody in East Texas, speak slowly, introduce yourself, tell me your name, tell me the organization that you're with, and then ask if you can help me, and then start asking me questions." And I had just rushed into it too quickly, but she was very kind and generous with her advice and her constructive criticism. But Amy and I have both been on these phone banks, and we leave them so grateful to be part of this effort, and we leave them also having made some friends. Tell them about, I think it was Carol, and her dog who barks, not when anyone else's phone rings, only when her phone rings.
Right.
And
Even if she
talk.
changes the ringer,
Right.
it doesn't matter what ringer she has, the dog will bark.
And then there was a woman in Granbury, I think, who said, Amy said, "Do you have water?" She said, "Yes." "Do you have electricity?" "Yes." "So great, it looks like you're okay and you're warm." And she said, "Hold on a second, I didn't say I was warm." And then she started talking about her electric blanket. She said, "I don't know how anybody lives without one of these." We met and talked to a lot of great people. And again, we'll be doing more phone banks. If you want to sign up, you can go to poweredbypeople.org. It's spelled poweredxpeople.org. And there's a form at the bottom to sign up. Put your name in there. We'll shoot you an email next phone bank we do. And we're always posting on Twitter and Facebook. Lots of opportunities to help out. And many of you did, like literally thousands of people. Kate today was telling us we had this great problem. We were doing follow-up phone calls today. So we did the 900,000 phone calls this week to identify those in need. Today was the follow-up phone calls for the people that we met who need ongoing assistance. And I think we needed 100 people to do those calls, and hundreds more showed up to make the calls. And so Kate turned the additional capacity of volunteers just onto making brand new phone calls to reach more seniors. So you guys are amazing. You make us so proud.
Okay, a few more donation shout outs. So Fabiola in McAllen donated.
Go RGV.
Leonore, I think I'm saying that correctly. From
Lenore?
Lenore
Maybe?
from Ohio just donated.
Right on.
So just amazing support. Someone from Oregon just donated. And then a quick question.
Yeah.
Someone asked why we weren't impacted in El Paso.
Okay, I'm going to give you the brief skinny on why El Paso, much of the Panhandle and parts of East Texas were not as affected as the rest of Texas. Most of Texas operates under the ERCOT electricity grid. El Paso does not. Much of the Panhandle does not. So for those in Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, Henderson, Texas, other parts of Texas under ERCOT, you're in a grid that's not connected to the rest of the country, which for most of the year and most years is okay. We produce more than enough power to satisfy our needs. But when you get hit with a catastrophic storm and you're not producing enough power to satisfy demand, there's no ability to draw down power from other parts of the country. So one of the reforms that must follow this disaster is connecting us with the rest of the electricity grid in the United States. That allows Texas to sell off excess capacity when we have more than enough, and it allows us to draw down when we need it. We also need regulations that would require power generators to weatherize their facilities. And we also need excess capacity, either required or incentivized, so that when we get hit with a tough situation like this one, we can draw upon those resources and send them out through the transmission lines. And then last thing, and I know all of you on this know this, but tell this to those who don't, we have to elect people who believe in climate change, because storms like this are only going to become more frequent, more severe, more unpredictable, and deadlier as we move forward. So we've got to start planning accordingly, protecting those communities and neighborhoods that are on the front line of climate change, very often the poorest neighborhoods, and so often communities of color that bear the brunt of Hurricane Harvey, horrific droughts, or this unprecedented winter storm. And in Texas, the energy capital of North America, should help to lead national policy to ensure that we are combating climate change before it's too late. And obviously, that means changing how we generate and produce power in Texas and across the country, how we electrify the grid, and how we make the important and tough political decisions that diminish the likelihood of disasters like this, especially for not just our generation, but the generations that follow, who will truly have to contend with the worst of climate change unless we change course now. So those are some things that I think we should be thinking about in the wake of this crisis.
So what can people do right now to take action to hold the state accountable for what's happened? I know, and someone checked me on this, I think I saw something going around today that the Texas House has opened up public comment, so people
Right.
can submit, personal testimony.
I think there's a hearing on, today's the 19th, I think there's a hearing set for the 25th. Comment at that hearing. And if you've been affected, make sure that you are on the record. We will try, and Kate, Cynthia, you're listening to this, back me up on this. Why don't we submit for the record what we have learned from all of the hundreds of thousands of phone calls that we've made over the course of this week? Let's submit that as testimony, like literally directly from the people who've been affected. And then, to the point of the question, to what Amy just said, I want you also to speak for yourselves about the changes that you'd like to see. There are those who are responsible, the Public Utility Commission, the PUC, the governor who appoints to the PUC that have regulatory oversight, the elected members of the state house and the state senate. And we're not necessarily looking for blame right now, but we're looking for responsibility and accountability, and we're looking for some action in the wake of the worst storm we've ever seen, and one of the deadliest. I think just in the greater Houston area, 20 people have died so far that we know of, including tragically an 11-year-old boy who died in his home. Looks like he died of hypothermia. We know of an 8-year-old girl who died with her mother of carbon monoxide poisoning while they were trying to stay warm in a car whose engine was on in the garage. And I saw something that County Judge Lena Hidalgo in Harris County said. She said in their hospitals they're seeing case after case of carbon monoxide poisoning. I think you have a friend who's a doctor who shared the same with you. Folks, please be careful. And there's if there's ever a time to check on your neighbor and make sure that she's okay, if there's ever a time just to say, hey, just want to make sure that you don't need anything, and if you do, I'd love to run to the store and grab you a case of water, or if you're not warm, come over to our house and get in front of our fireplace. I was talking to Joe Jaworski in Galveston, Texas, the other day, who said that he has a fireplace, he has firewood, and so he invited all of his neighbors to sit in his living room and enjoy the warmth for as long as it lasted. We know that some people are breaking up furniture and personal belongings to burn those to keep their kids warm. So anyhow, that's what we're up against right now. But we also have an extraordinary, powerful presence in our volunteers who are willing to do the work to help those in need right now. So please keep it up. So we will Sweep all the comments that we saw on this Facebook live stream for anyone who needs help or has a suggested resource that they want us to get out there or has a question that we haven't been able to answer. For those who have the capacity to do so, we encourage you to donate. There's a link right here. Again, the money that you donate to us, we send out to shelters, to local food banks and pantries, and organizations that are on the ground that are providing help, ideally door to door in the most impacted neighborhoods. And then if you need help, remember there's a general assistance line, 211. You can call that, I think, from any city in the state of Texas, 211. If you need water, if you need transportation, if you need food. For senior citizens, you can actually call Adult Protective Services. They will help you out there as well. Or if you have a senior citizen in your neighborhood who needs some help, Adult Protective Services. And then if you have a true emergency, 911. And that includes if you have medical equipment that is powered by electricity and electricity goes out and that medical equipment keeps you alive, call 911. Get an ambulance, get some medical care at your house. But again, if you have other needs, other questions, if there are other communities for whom we have not posted resources, let us know. We want to get those up and we want to help out as many people as we can. I know you do as well, or you wouldn't be on this live stream right now. ¿Algo más?
No, es todo.
Cynthia, Kate, let us know if you have anything else that you need us to make sure that we mention. Christina Crawford, who's a great volunteer and is also a nurse, said that she believes that the events that she saw in the ER this week were even worse than what she saw during COVID. And let's not forget that there are a lot of communities in Texas that are still contending with COVID, a lot of people who should be vaccinated who are not yet. Let's not give up the effort to make sure that everyone, especially those 65 and over, get vaccinated in Texas, and we'll work on that as well. Okay, we will sign off. Thank you to everyone who's volunteered, who's donated, who's helped out, who's seeking to assist at this time of need in Texas. To our friends across the state, especially in those cities that have been hit the hardest and hurt the most, know that we are with you always, and we'll do everything we can until we are safely through this disaster. We're going to be there for you. All right, everybody take care and take care of one another. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.